FX Studio 2. No boring gear reviews, just real talk.
Hello, and welcome back to FX Studio 2. This is your host, G Sharp Jams, and today we're going to talk about a subject that's going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. And that's a good thing. Because if this video makes you uncomfortable, that means I've done my job and I've gotten the message across clearly. So what are we talking about today? Today, we're talking about the home recording studio and the person who decides they want to go pro and open a commercial studio. That's fantastic. If that's you, I wish you the best of luck and nothing but good things to come for you and your studio and your future as an audio engineer acting professionally. Now, emphasis there on the words acting professionally. We'll get back to that in just a moment. Here's the problem, and here's where the uncomfortable part comes in. When you're sitting at home and you have your recording studio, very comfortable, very laid back, no pressure, no deadlines, no schedules to keep. You're just in there and you're having fun. You're being creative. You're coming up with new ideas. You're testing new things out. You're doing all these things, and you have all the time in the world to do that. When you go pro and you open a commercial recording studio, that comfort level is gone. It's gone. When that client walks in and pays you their money, they're not going to expect you to say, well, let's try this or let's try that, or, I don't like the way that take came out. Let's go back and redo that. They don't want to hear that. They want to know that you are prepared and ready to go because you, long before that client walked in the door, came to the realization that this isn't a hobby anymore. This is serious business. I don't have friends coming over with their guitars and maybe a keyboard, setting up a couple of mics and having fun and doing this and doing that. Yeah, this is fun. And okay, let's see what else we can do here. And let's try a different bass line here. And let's do that. And let's do that. That's fine and dandy when you're at home with your friends. But when you have a commercial recording studio and you have paying clients, they don't want to hear that. Again, they want to know that you are prepared and ready to go when they walk through those doors. And what is the first thing that you need to do in order to be prepared? Very simple. The phone rings. Hi, G Sharp Jams here at FX Studio. How can I help you? Hi, yeah, I saw your advertisement in the newspaper or on the internet and wanted to come down and do some recording with my band and, just get a flavor for how you work and let's take it from there. And your answer is, sure, come on down. You know what? Let me check my schedule book here. Yeah, okay. I've got an opening Tuesday at 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. Does that work for you? That works fine. Okay, well, I'll see you then. Click. Conversation's over. If that's all you did, you already have a huge problem. And this is what separates the professional from the amateur. The professional is going to pick up that phone and say, tell me a little bit about your band. How many band members do you have? What instruments are they playing? What guitar amplifiers do you like to use? Do you have a keyboard player? Okay. Does he have his own keyboard? Because I have a couple of keyboards here in the studio that he can use if he'd like to use those. But does he have his own rack of gear that he intends to bring? What is in that rack of gear so that you, the audio engineer, knows exactly what's coming into your studio and you're prepared for it? Do you have backup singers? What microphones do you feel comfortable working with? There's a lot of preparation that goes into that session before that session ever begins, and you have to be prepared with the right questions to ask in that initial phone call. It separates you from the amateurs. And trust me on this one. Trust me on this one. They can hear it in your voice. They can hear it by the inflections of your voice and whether or not you're speaking confidently or whether or not you are. And we're all familiar with this old saying, fake it till you make it. That holds true in a lot of things in the real world. But when you're running a business, fake it till you make it doesn't hold water because the client is going to spot it right away. And that's going to kill your studio right away. You've got to be prepared. Let me give you an analogy here. Let's just say you're opening up a bookstore. Let's forget about recording studios right now. Let's just go with something else. You're opening up a bookstore and you go to the suppliers or the publishers and you order all these books and you've got this nice big space and you've got about 6 or 7 aisles of books and you've got hundreds and hundreds of books in this bookstore. Person walks in through the door one day and says, "Hey, I'm looking for a book on herbal medicine for a person in my family who is suffering from XYZ. You have any books on that?" And then your answer is, "Yeah, over there in aisle 7, I got books on herbal medicines and herbal remedies. And, feel free to take your time and, take a look at the books that we have there." And that's your answer. And that's amateur. The professional bookstore owner is going to say, "Herbal remedies and medicines. Are you familiar with author John Smith? He wrote a few books on that, and I've got some over in aisle 7. I read a couple of the books, and he goes into this in detail, and he talks about this, and he talks about that. That might be something you might find of interest." Again, it's right there on aisle 7 on the second shelf, blah, 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 blah. You go through all of that with them. What was the difference there? You came across as someone who knew their stuff, as opposed to the first guy who said, "Yeah, we've got some books over there in aisle 7. Go take a look and, take your time." And it's the same thing in the recording studio. It's the same thing. You are now running a business. And if you're running a business, you better be professional about what you're doing. You cannot take your hobby, put it in a commercial space, and call yourself a professional audio engineer. Can't do it. At some point, before you open those doors to your professional commercial recording studio, you have to come to the realization that this isn't a hobby anymore. I have to be prepared. I have to know my stuff. I have to be knowledgeable. I have to be able to make decisions on the fly. Because if I'm sitting there and I'm thinking it through and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what do we do next? And, well, that didn't sound too good. Well, first of all, if it didn't sound too good, it's either the musician or it was you. You don't want it to be you. For certain, you don't want it to be you. How do you avoid that from happening? From being prepared, by being the professional. Getting as much information from that client as possible before they walk through those doors so that when they do, you know exactly what they're looking for. You know exactly what type of music they're playing. You know exactly how many band members they have. You know exactly how many microphones you're going to use. You know exactly if the keyboard player is bringing his own rig or he's going to be using one of your rigs. You know what guitar amplifiers they like to use. You know all of that. On top of that, let's just say they are a heavy metal hard rock band. Beforehand, you have to come to the decision, what preamps am I going to use? They're heavy metal. They want that deep, heavy sound. What preamps am I going to use? What am I going to compress the vocals on? What does this man's voice sound like, or this female's voice sound like? All of that is information that you need to get beforehand. Now, on something like that, they may say, well, we have a female vocalist and we have 2 male vocalists that do the background vocals, and they sound like this and they sound like that. You're not going to know for certain until you hear it for yourself. And that's why you have the pre-session. You have that initial phone call, then you have that pre-session where you run through a few things. These are the things that you got to be prepared for. These are the things that you need to know that are going to take place in your studio before any recording gets started. before you hit that record button, before you say, okay, take one in 3, 2, 1. These are the things that you have to ask yourself. These are the things that you have to go over with your client. Again, you are not in your bedroom home studio with your two next door neighbors who have one plays the drums and one plays the guitar, and you come over and you have some fun. The fun is over. This is business. This is real world, real life, taking somebody's money who believes and trusts in your capabilities. That's the difference between the hobbyist and the professional. And those are the things that you have to be prepared for. Now, all of that being said, I want you to keep this in mind. This is something that you have to ask yourself first. You've made the decision, I believe I'm ready to go commercial and open a recording studio. Ask yourself this question first. Before you go out and start looking for space, before you start thinking about advertising, before you start thinking about what your studio is going to look like and how you're going to set it up, ask yourself this question first. If I were to take this room as it existed right now and put it in a commercial studio, what is it that this room needs in order to make my clients comfortable working with me? Now, where does that take us? If you have a bedroom studio in your home, like 90% of people do that aren't commercial, it's a spare bedroom or it's in a garage, take a look around. Just take a look around. What do you have on your walls? You might have some posters up there. You might have some pictures there. You might have your college degree hanging there. You might have racks of guitars or whatever the case may be. You'll have something in the room other than just your equipment. You need to mentally remove yourself from that room and take a look at the equipment that you have and say, okay, what does this equipment need to do in order to keep my clients happy and confident in my capabilities? Don't go out and start buying more gear. Oh, I'm going pro now. I'm going to need this, and I'm going to need this, and I'm going to need the newest this and the newest this. If you're getting ready to open a recording studio, the last thing you want to do is go out and buy more new gear, because you think having that piece of gear or those 2 or 3 pieces of gear is going to make you look more knowledgeable or instill confidence in you from the clients that walk through that door. They may come in and look and say, wow, he's got this and he's got that, and oh man, this guy, he's got a lot of stuff in there. But what did you do? You just bought a piece of equipment and put it in your studio that you've barely used. And they're going to look at that piece of equipment and say, I've heard a lot about that right there. I want that on my track. And now you're sitting there, what are you going to tell them? Well, I just bought it 2 months ago and I haven't really had time to use it. Red flag number 1. Red flag number 2. The physical space where this studio exists looks like someone took their home studio and put it into a commercial space. Cannot look like that. There is a certain look to a professional recording studio. You can't have fold-up tables from Walmart for $29.99 and put your equipment on top of them. I know that's how I started. That's how most of us start. You go out and buy some tables. You might buy a professional rack or 2, but whatever the case may be, when you first get started, that's what you use. You just buy some fold-up tables from Walmart, you're good to go, and you put this on this table and this on this table. That's not going to fly in a recording studio. Not when people are paying you money. They want to walk in there and say, oh, okay, he took his time and put this together. Look at this setup. This is impressive. Not the gear that's impressive, but the physical space that's impressive. Okay, one last thing before we wrap up here. The final piece that I want you to keep in mind. If you're thinking about opening a commercial professional recording studio, you have to remember this. Going commercial means giving up comfort. You're so used to being in your bedroom studio, your garage studio, in your home. Again, there's no deadlines, there's no pressure, there's no schedule, there are no clients sitting around looking at you and wondering what it is that you're sitting there thinking about. None of that exists. It is a very comfortable environment. Be prepared to be uncomfortable. Be prepared to know how to adapt to that uncomfortable situation or that uncomfortable environment. Because let me tell you something. Some of these clients are going to drive you absolutely up a wall. If you're a commercial studio owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've got to be a professional, not just in how you work and how you use your equipment. You need to be a professional in how you handle a client. Take some business courses. Go on Amazon and buy some books on how to run a business. Doesn't matter what business it is, doesn't matter. It's the basis of how do I run a business. Learn how to run a business because it is now a business. It is no longer a hobby, and you have to treat it as such. Until next time, this is G Sharp Jams here at FX Studio saying thanks for watching. And again, don't forget to check out my new website, www.fxstudio2realtalk.com. Got some great information on you. There's the basis of the website is Decision First Engineering. Deep stuff, not for the beginner. I hesitate to say that it may be for the intermediate. It is for the professional recording studio audio engineer. Take a look at it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Also, there's a new YouTube channel, Decision First Engineering. Go ahead and check that out. Not a lot on there yet. We just started it right now. As of the recording of this video, I've only got one 6-minute video on there, but that YouTube channel will be based upon the information that's on the website, fxstudio2realtalk.com, and Decision First Engineering. Good stuff, I promise you that. Anyway, till next time, G Sharp Jams out. Everybody stay safe, stay happy, keep doing what you're doing, stay creative, and I'll see you next time.